Every day, a young soldier would sit down and write a letter to the woman he loved. He poured his heart out onto the page, sharing with her every moment of his life. And with each letter, he promised her that he would return home soon. But then one day he stopped writing. His letters went unanswered, and his return home never came. But this wasn't just some tragic love story. It was actually much more than that. The letters were sent over 80 years ago, when Spain was torn apart by civil war. And until recently, no one knew what had happened to him or why he had been silenced. It all started back in 1936 when war broke out between Republicans and nationalists. This war would go on for 3 long years and claim the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Among those caught up in the conflict was a young soldier who was just 19 years old when it began. His name was Francisco, and like so many other young men at the time, he felt compelled to join the fight. He wanted to be a part of something bigger than himself, and to defend the ideals he believed in. So he joined the Nationalist Army, and soon found himself on the front lines. Throughout the war, he fought bravely and made many close friends. But there was one thing that kept him going through the darkest days: the thought of his beloved fiancée, Carmen. They had met when he was just a young boy, and she had captured his heart with her kindness and beauty. They had been inseparable ever since, and he couldn't wait to start a life with her. And so every day that he was able to, Francisco wrote a letter to Carmen, telling her about his experiences on the front lines and pouring out his love for her. He wrote about the battles he fought in, the friends he made, and the longing he felt for her. With each letter, he promised her that he would come back to her soon, that they would be together again, and that nothing could break the bond they shared. He wrote to her about the horrors of war, the death and destruction around him, and the fear that he felt every day. He wrote about the friends he lost, the battles he survived, and the moments of beauty he found in the midst of all the chaos. He wrote about the bravery of those around him, the kindness of strangers, and the hope that kept him going. Francisco wrote these letters not only to express his love for Carmen, but also to document his experiences for her. He wanted her to understand what he was going through, to feel like she was there with him in the trenches, and to know that he was thinking of her every step of the way. But sadly, most of these letters never reached her. There were times when the mail was cut off and he couldn't send any letters for weeks or even months. Then there were other times when the journey was too dangerous and he feared that if he sent a letter, it might be intercepted and used against him. As the war dragged on, the letters became more and more desperate. He wrote about the toll the war was taking on him, both physically and emotionally. He spoke of the exhaustion he felt, the nightmares he had, and the fear that he would never come home. He wrote about the loneliness he felt, the longing for Carmen, and the sadness that he couldn't be with her. Yet even in the darkest moments, he never gave up hope. With every letter, he expressed his undying love for Carmen, his determination to survive, and his belief that they would be reunited one day. Sadly, the war took a turn for the worse, and Francisco was killed in battle just 2 years later. He was only 21 years old and had been fighting for the Nationalist Army for almost 3 years. The news of his death reached Carmen, and she was heartbroken. She had waited patiently for him to return home, but now she knew that she would never see him again. She kept his letters close, rereading them over and over, and cherished the memories they shared. But as the years went on, the pain of his loss became less and less, and eventually it faded into a deep sadness that would stay with her for the rest of her life. She never forgot him, though, and she often wondered what would have become of them if the war had taken a different path. After the war, Carmen moved on with her life. She married another man and had children, but she never forgot Francisco. She kept his letters hidden away in a box, a tangible reminder of a love that had been lost to war. It wasn't until decades later that his story would finally be told. In 2016, Spanish historian named Almudena Grandes was researching the Spanish Civil War when she came across an abandoned house in the countryside. Inside the house, she found a box filled with letters, diaries, and photographs from the war. Among them were the letters that Francisco had written to Carmen all those years ago. As she read through them, she was captivated by his story and the power of his words. She could feel the love he had for Carmen, the fear he felt in the trenches, and the hope that kept him going. She knew she had to share his story with the world, and so she began searching for Carmen's family. After months of searching, she finally tracked down Carmen's niece, who was willing to help her tell Francisco's story. Together, they published a book containing Francisco's letters, which became an instant bestseller in Spain. It told the story of a young soldier's love for his fiancée during the Spanish Civil War and the heartbreaking reality of their separation. The book was translated into several languages and became a critical success, winning numerous awards and being featured in newspapers and magazines around the world. It brought Francisco and Carmen's story to a global audience and allowed people to connect with the raw emotion and power of Francisco's words. Finally, after all these years, Francisco's story was being told, and people around the world were falling in love with him all over again. Through his letters, readers could experience the love he had for Carmen, the fear he felt in the trenches, and the hope that kept him going. They could feel the pain of his loss and the heartbreak of a love that had been lost to war. And in the end, they could celebrate the fact that his story had finally been shared, and that his memory would live on for generations to come. But sadly, Carmen passed away before she could see the book published or know that her uncle's story was finally being told. However, her niece was able to fulfill her wish and ensure that she knew how proud he had made her. The success of the book led to a movie being made about Francisco's life. It starred Penelope Cruz and was nominated for several prestigious awards, including an Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film. The film did a great job of bringing Francisco and Carmen's story to life and allowed a new generation to fall in love with their story. To this day, Francisco's letters continue to inspire awe and wonder. People around the world are moved by the power of his words and the strength of his love for Carmen. His story is a reminder of the courage and resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to endure, even in the darkest of times. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave us a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future stories. And if you want to learn more about amazing stories like this one, click the link in the description below.